Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a really weird deck that just went and did really rather well over in Japan. It's another winning deck, and it's frankly one that we're just not expecting. And it all revolves around the new Froslass. So on the one hand, it's a little bit sad that it took a while for Froslass to come back. It took us a long time to get a new Froslass. But on the other hand, it's nice that we've actually got it now. We do have a Froslass, and it's doing well. And it's winning. Now, usually we get our deck list from the lovely Code64X, and I really appreciate them. That dude is awesome. But today our deck list comes from the lovely Tunu1223, a chat we've used on more than one occasion. So this new Froslass then, what does it do and why is it so gosh darn good? Well, the answer is essentially for 1 water energy, you put up to 7 damage counters on the Pokemon and you do 20 more damage for each damage counter you placed in this way. Really, you're doing 140 damage for a single water energy. But the key thing here is that non-GXs that are seeing a lot of play right now, we're talking things like Zapdos, for instance, or things like the non-GX Buzzwole, they've got less than 140 HP, and that's cute and that's lovely, but let's not bury the lead here, ladies and gentlemen. This is all about Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX. Because you see, they've got 270 HP, and a weakness to water. So that means that you're getting a one-hit KO on them for a single energy. Now, in his tweet when he sent this out, Tunu said, I think this is going to change the landscape, and he's right. This deck will change the Pokemon trading card game. And the reason is extremely simple. Over in Japan, Reshiram and Charizard is the best deck right now. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no, well, what about this one? No, it is the best deck in Japan. In Kyoto, they had a Champions League recently with 1,500 people. Best deck, Charizard. How many Charizard in the top 4? 2, and then another one in top 8. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, Reshiram and Charizard is the best deck in Japan right now. And as you look down through the tournament results, and I'll pop a link to the results on limitlesstcg.com, it's ridiculous. It wasn't just the best deck. We saw that the top 64 decks had 25 Reshiram and Charizard. 25 of the top 64 decks, that is 39% of top 64 was Reshiram and Charizard. And this is a phenomenal counter. When I did my video about Froslass just recently, I called it the best counter to the best deck, or the best Pokemon. It is. That has now been proven. And that's generally what you do here. You revolve around, I am just going to hit with Froslass. It is your main attacker. You are playing a 4-4 line of Froslass. And you don't really have a backup attacker per se. Now, to be fair, you do play one copy of Hooper, who is a backup attacker. It's just not a great backup attacker. The best attack here for 1 colorless energy does 10 damage plus 20 more for each Pokemon your opponent has in play with an ability. Now, it's a basic that can do 130 for a single energy if all your opponent's Pokemon have abilities and they have a full bench, so it's not a bad Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination. It's a decent single energy basic non-GX attacker, but it's not much better than that. But the other Pokemon we see here is the Shedinja from Lost Thunder. This one's huge. Once during your turn before you attack, you may discard all cards attached to this Pokemon and attach it to one of your Pokemon as a Pokemon tool card. When the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out, your opponent takes 1 fewer prize card. Or to put it another way, you can attach it as a life dew. It's not knocking it out. It doesn't give up a prize. You just attach it to one of your Pokemon as a life dew, and then your opponent takes one fewer prize. That, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely, wonderfully, brilliantly awesome. Because now, not only are you relying on a non-GX, and incidentally there are no GXs in this deck, we'll go through the other Pokemon in a moment, but actually your opponent is not even going to take a prize every time they KO a Froslass. You're going to get down to 10 HP remaining, but you're probably going to have a Shedinja attached, and when you've got a Shedinja attached, your opponent doesn't take a prize. Now, don't get me wrong, they can Guzma something off the bench, and if they do, they do. And don't get me wrong, they can play a Field Blower and get rid of it. And if they do, they do. But as it stands at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, Shedinja is really helping you out. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, we see a 2/2 line of Pidgeotto here. It's just good draw. Look at the top two cards of your deck. Put one in your hand, the other on the bottom of your deck. It's consistency, it's good draw. One copy of Ditto Prism Star, because we're playing a whole bunch of Stage 1s here. We're actually playing 3 different Stage 1 lines. You got your Froslass, and then you got your Pidgeotto and your Shedinja. It's pretty good. One copy of Mew. It's got the bench barrier ability. It protects you when you're on the bench. There's a whole bunch of Pokemon that hit the bench, but Pikachu and Zekrom really springs to mind here. Their GX attack hits 170 to the bench. That's an extra prize against this deck. When we're using non-GXs and Shedinja and we're really trying to stop our opponent taking prizes, the last thing we want to do is just let them take an extra prize with their GX attack. And then we see a couple copies of Marshadow. Marshadow here, both players shuffle their hands into their deck, draw a new hand of 4 cards. It's Marshadow. It sees an awful lot of play. So that's the Pokemon line. Obviously the energy line, we're just going water energy here. Why would we not? You need water energy for the attack. Let's not muck about all water energy. And in terms of the trainers, honestly here, it's pretty standard. Now we do see one copy of Energy Recycle System. It's not standard in every deck. And you either get to put 1 basic energy in your hand or shuffle 3 back into your deck. You cannot really afford to miss an attack here, so that's kind of cool. And we do see 2 copies of Max Potion, which again is pretty good if your opponent wants to muck around with Guzma. Because what essentially happens is you've got a Shedinja on your active Pokemon, so your opponent doesn't want to knock it out. So your opponent plays a Guzma, takes out a bench Pokemon. The problem here is that Frostlass's attack is only good when you've got full HP, because you need to put 7 damage counters on it. So, Max Potion. You Max Potion, and then you're good. Now, incidentally here, if you've got 10 HP remaining with Froslass, you are allowed to put 7 damage counters on and do 140 damage. That is a legal play that you are totally 100% definitely allowed to do. And I say that as a fact. And I know that because the ruling came up with the Mamoswine from Crimson Invasion, and this is a question which I believe has appeared on a Professor test. I might be wrong about that, but I have checked this, it is definitely right. Forceful Tackle allows you to put up to 9 damage counters on this Pokemon. You do 10 more damage for each damage counter you placed. It's very similar to Froslass in that way. And it has been ruled that you can put 9 damage counters on Mamoswine, even when you've got fewer than 90 HP remaining. So look, if you've got 10 HP remaining on Froslass, you can put 7 damage counters on to do 140, but then you KO yourself. Whereas if you Max Potion, you can do it, and you don't KO yourself. That seems pretty good to me. And then being a water Pokemon, you're obviously going to be using Brooklet Hill here, because it searches out basic water Pokemon, and you need your basic water Pokemon. That's pretty obvious. And then the rest of the deck, we got 4 Ultra Ball, 1 Pokemon Communication. They are our Pokemon search of choice. Ultra Ball's the best. We can only play 4. So there's a Pokemon Communication in there to swap a Pokemon in our hand for 1 in our deck. 3 copies of Rescue Stretcher because, well, we need to go heavy Rescue Stretcher. Froslass is getting KO'd a lot. And you really want 6 of them, but you can only play 4 of them, and then you can recover Shedinja. This is a deck that really wants to recover Pokemon far more than most decks, ergo, you need more Rescue Stretcher. 1 copy of Choice Band to do a little bit of extra damage. Our draw cards of choice are Cynthia and Lily, 4 of each. They're the 2 best draw cards in the format. This should not be it shouldn't be controversial, like even a little bit. Should not be a surprise. 3 copies of Professor Round's lecture. Now this gets all your basics out if they've got 60 HP or less. I mean, it gets non-basics. Oh look! It actually gets your Pidgeotto here, which makes it especially good in this deck. But you want to get your Pidgeys out so you can evolve it, and you want to get your Shedinja basics out, and your Froslass basics out, and your Mew and all of that. There's a lot of Pokemon you want to get out here, so this becomes a really important card. And then you got 3 copies of Guzma, especially if you're going to be 2-hit KOing with Froslass, as you will against bigger Pokemon. Yeah, you need Guzma to make sure they don't run to the bench. You need to be able to KO them. I adore this deck. Whether it can stand up in a meta where Reshiram and Charizard isn't crushing, I honestly don't know. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. But I will say that while Reshiram and Charizard is the best deck, and I don't think that's a controversial statement right now, this is a phenomenal deck that will change the game. Now, there is every possibility that this deck wards off Reshiram and Charizard, and then it's not so good, so it goes away. But at least in the short term, this deck's going to be phenomenal. So that's what I think, ladies and gentlemen, but I would very much like to know what you think. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.